your time, and if we have any time left over, I'll take some questions that you may have. So my name is Brent Ziegler. I began my military career at age 17. So I signed the dotted line to join the military 3 months before I graduated from high school. I have served almost 5 years as an enlisted soldier, and for the remainder of my career, I've served as a commissioned officer, leading units of various sizes and being appointed and working at various directorates in the Joint Force Headquarters. I am campaigning to become the Adjutant General because I want to be a voice for the service members, their families, veterans, and the Gold Star families. I believe our National Guard must be ready, resilient, trusted by our communities, by our appointed and elected leaders we serve. I have zero doubt that my experience, my values, and my lifelong commitment to service uniquely qualify me to lead the Vermont National Guard into its next chapter. As a 50-year-old military officer with more than 3 decades of service, I bring a broad and balanced perspective. I have served as a senior logistics officer, gaining experience in supply, maintenance, and transportation. I've also served as the human resource officer and deputy military personnel officer. In my role as the human resource officer, I served both the Army and the Air National Guard. I developed a deep understanding of the Air National Guard operations and talent management, while building enduring relationships that continue today. I have worked side by side both the Air and Army service members, and I understand how our components integrate to accomplish our mission. I have been directly involved in planning, coordinating, and executing state missions that protect lives, safeguard property, support our communities when they need us the most. At the same time, our National Guard must be ready to serve beyond our state borders. Our service members deploy across the country and abroad, supporting federal missions and national defense requirements. I have led these efforts at the tactical and operational levels to ensure our forces are trained, resourced, and prepared to answer every call. Now, throughout my career, I've led with presence and accountability. While senior leaders must set strategy and manage resources, I believe effective leadership also requires visibility and engagement at every level of our organization. I have worked shoulder to shoulder with our service members in the field, understanding their challenges firsthand and ensuring that decisions made at the top are informed by realities on the ground. This approach builds trust, improves readiness, and delivers results to the people we serve. I also have had the privilege of supporting our service members, their families, Gold Star families, and veterans as president of the Vermont National Guard Charitable Foundation. I am a veteran myself, having deployed in Iraq in 2005, and I understand firsthand the sacrifices, hardships, and strain that deployments bring upon the service member and their loved ones. As the Adjutant General, it would be my honor to represent them on a larger scale and be their advocate. Today, I serve as the Senior Operations and Training Officer, responsible for ensuring our units meet training requirements for both federal and state missions, leading responses to natural disasters, and maintaining a high state of readiness across the force. I will not obey an unlawful order. Say that again, I will not obey an unlawful order. I will not disobey a lawful order. If elected as Vermont's next Adjutant General, I am committed to leading a transformation era based on value-based leadership. One that prioritizes the well-being of our service members and their families, strengthens recruitment, improves retention, enhances disaster response and combat readiness, and builds a professional, trusted organization grounded in integrity, selfless service, and excellence. I have 6 goals and objectives I'd like to present to you today that will be my guide rail for setting priorities and executing duties during my tenure at elected. First, service member well-being and work-life balance. In order to foster a Guard culture that supports service members and their families through a holistic health approach and career development. Second, foster a value-based culture and organizational trust by ensuring service members serve with integrity, excellence, and exemplify selfless service to both Vermont and the nation. Third, institutional and civic alignment. Through the advancement of our state partnership program and volunteerism that results in collaboration and communication with a shared purpose, transparency, and mutual support. Fourth is strengthening our forces. And that's by cultivating a professional, skilled, and resilient force in a culture of purpose, belonging, and long-term self-service that helps with workforce development. I want to resonate with the thought of work here, learn here, live here, stay here. Fifth is disaster response. That's by strengthening the Guard's capacity and abilities to respond effectively and plan for future events. And I have 18 years of my 33 years experience with firsthand knowledge, being a soldier on the ground responding Hurricane Irene into the flood responses, the warming shelters in Vermont. And then also in just planning those efforts. As a G3, I have that responsibility to direct and task units to ensure that we respond appropriately to citizens of Vermont. And then the last one is ensure combat readiness. And that's by maintaining our training programs that have proven effectively based on past deployments, but ultimately ensure service members are properly trained and equipped. So for the last 33 years, I've devoted my life to serving alongside fellow service members in the defense of our state and our nation. If elected as your next adjutant general, I will bring that same level of commitment to earning your trust and providing you as legislators the confidence that your National Guard is well led, accountable, and prepared to meet every mission. I've always been all in for the organization and the people who serve it, and I will remain all in regardless of the outcome of this election. And for that, I sincerely thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Thank you. You had mentioned retention. I've heard a lot about recruitment over the years, but I haven't heard anybody mention is retention like problem, like the stats are just, you just always get room for improvement.
So, sir, for us, when we talk about strength of the Guard, it's a two-part equation. Part of that's retention and a part of it's recruitment. Our retention is actually very well. We're above the national average, but you know, there's still that certain percentage that are deciding to leave, and for us, that's not our standard. We want to retain everyone up to the point that they feel like they've met their purpose in joining the organization. So there's always room for improvement, but our retention is very good.
Is it every 2 years they got to resign, or is it that time probably different for each?
Very good question, sir. Generally speaking, for me, when I joined, raised my right hand as a private in the Kansas Army National Guard, you sign up for a 6x2 enlistment. So you have a 6-year commitment to attend all drills and annual training, and then there's an option for you to basically go ING for a couple of years. So, but I had for the most part, most people have a 6-year commitment.
But once you're in, when you're trying to retain people, when you're asking them like stay, are you asking for, and those are the 2-year increments?
So after that, they can sign up for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. We do try to get their full commitment for another 6 years if possible. Okay. And a lot of that happens because of benefits, which, there's room to work there to help out with the retention piece, but benefits help out with the recruiting too. So yeah, it varies.
And do you have any ideas to how you would improve recruitment?
So one of the, so that's nested in one of my objectives. I want to get back out and start doing town halls in communities. And I feel like we have been put in a place where from a facility management perspective, money is getting very tight. And so we're building regional readiness centers. That's drawn us out of those individual communities out there that over the years have been the basis of our recruitment. So if we're going to withdraw ourselves, not by our decision per se, but because of financial reasons, we have to get ourselves out in the community. We can do that. Me being a face, some of the other senior leaders being a face and talking to community members about what we do, giving them that trust and confidence and understanding about the Guard. And then also getting our training members out. We can work out compacts with certain landowners or the cities, towns, and we can do training. Let people observe what we do. Give them an opportunity to ask us questions about, oh, we observed this, or we had questions about this, that, or another about the military. So it's us getting ourselves out there that needs to happen. I further feel like there are other opportunities that some of our service members or young, the youth in the city, in the state rather, they're looking around at other states' educational benefits, name the benefit, and they have better options in some cases than what Vermont provides. So, raising the conversation about can we do better and what we provide for to help out with our recruiting and retention. So those three things are kind of on the forefront of my mind on trying to improve our recruiting.
Good. Good to you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. We have yours.
Yes. So I presented in front of you basically my campaign brochure, and there's a reminder of some of the talking points that I presented to you today. Also, a little bit about my bio. I didn't tell you everything about me, but there's some additional information there. And then in addition, finally, there's contact information for myself and my campaign team. So if you have any questions that may arise in the course between now and election day, then by all means, please reach out to me. I'd be very happy to meet you one-on-one or with the group of constituents that you want to pull together.
Just like the next couple of weeks. When do we do this? I can't remember.
I believe my calendar says for February 19th. I don't know the exact time, but February 19th, certainly. Yes.
Right. Well, thanks for your time and your service.
Perfect.
Stepping forward for this position.
My privilege and an honor, and I'm doing this for the service members. So I thank you for the opportunity to have a discussion. Yeah, enjoy the rest of the day and have a great weekend.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so change gears back to the Budget Adjustment Act and Cannabis Control Board. I'll let you introduce yourselves. I think you don't have a lot in the budget adjustment this year.
We did not.
Relatively straightforward, yes. So for the record, my name is James Pepper, the chair of the Cannabis Control Board, and I'm joined by
Yes, Olga Fitch, and I'm the executive director for the board. And we do have a PowerPoint presentation I just requested to share.
You have co-host permissions. You
Okay,
can share.
perfect. Thank you.
So this PowerPoint gives a snapshot of the market. It is brief. Some of the work we've done over the last year, some of the kind of trends that we've been seeing. We can just jump straight to the last slide, which is the budget adjustment piece. But I would
Give us a quick update.
it's not long.
Yes, right.
Just don't give it to us again when you come back to your budget.
Sure.
There you go.
Things change pretty quickly in this industry.
Yeah, so-
We'll have a whole new set of facts
Yeah.
to share with you.
We'll try to be consistent. So yes, as the chair noted, we'll start with a brief market update, touch on some key sort of highlights of what our agency has accomplished in this last year, and then finish with a budget adjustment request for your consideration. So on this first slide, you're looking at the chart showing the total number of our active licenses dating back to July of 2023 through the month of December. You could see the overall trajectory, and it includes a noticeable bump between the end of 2024 and early 2025 in the number of licenses that we issued. You may remember that was the time frame where the board put on hold retail and cultivation applications. So we were not accepting anything new. So what you're seeing here is folks that jumped in at the last minute, and we issued quite a few licenses during that time frame. And since then, the numbers have been trending downward, and we're now moving closer to that sort of pre-rush levels, and we expect them to stabilize there. So again, just a little color. Yes.
So before we move on to the other slide, what do you attribute that slide to, or do you?
So when we have the authority to stop accepting new applications, and we have to do that through a vote with the board. And we always give the industry a minimum of 30 days for people that may be in the middle of building a retail location or a cultivation facility, but hadn't actually hit submit on their application quite yet. So we vote to say in 30 days from now, we're not going to be accepting or approving any new licenses. And when we voted to close retail and cultivation, I think in December of 24, we saw a a lot of people try and rush through the door as it was closing. So we saw this somewhat artificial spike. So we're not losing more businesses than usual. They're just not getting backfilled by new businesses.
Yeah, so again, we saw a lot of the licenses and now we're back to where we were before.
And looking at other markets, you think that for our population or density that around between 500 and 600 is where we're gonna end up? Or regions, or you don't know?
So if we look at it more from, yeah, I mean, yes, there's a finite demand for cannabis in the state. It's purely intrastate market. So we can't just create more customers than the kind of residents and the tourists that come here. And this seems to be what we did was we kind of estimated what the demand for a regulated cannabis was going to be and try and match the amount of canopy to be licensed to meet that. Whether we need more retailers, that's kind of an open question. But as far as the supply of cannabis to the demand for cannabis, I think we're pretty much regulated.
The moratorium ended, right?
We never had a moratorium. We as a board voted voluntarily to close these application windows. We can reopen them at any time.
They're closed now.
They're closed now.
So close, and we are working with a consultant on the supply and demand analysis, so we're expecting some findings from their work that will help the board make those decisions on when we reopen the new application window, how that's handled. So. And another quick slide again on our adult use program licensing, that sort of shows you a breakdown between the different license types and also divides our licensees between the priority status groups. So standard is orange, social equity blue, and economic empowerment. And as you can see, most of our licensees are from speakers, followed by retailers. So again, most that after license types are cultivation and retail that are currently on hold.
And adult use, you used that term to differentiate from medical.
Yes.
There isn't a non-adult use.
There is not adult use, yes, 21.
Yeah, right.
Yes, that's right. And since we've mentioned medical, unless you have questions here, I thought.
Yeah. Senator Norris.
So did you get your lab up and running?
There are some slides on that.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely catch you up.
Are you gonna talk about medical?
Yes, I was going to jump in there, just a couple slides to update you on the status of our medical program. So you can see on this slide that currently we have a total of 25 locations, between 3 standalone medical dispensaries and 22 medically endorsed retailers that are able to serve patients and obviously caregivers who represent patients, which is new, right? As a reminder, we received an ability to issue medical endorsements to those retailers who are interested as of July 1. And in the last 6 months, we've gained 22 new locations because 22 out of 109 retailers have secured that additional ability to serve patients. So that's quite the accomplishment and a new trend here. And you could probably see that, so if you look at the charts, you'll notice that the numbers of our patients and caregivers has grown over the course of the last, especially 6 months. Up until, last 6 or 8 months, the numbers of caregivers and patients have been on decline. So we could tell that the introduction of medical endorsements has triggered additional interest, and we are seeing patients returning into the medical program and sticking out services through their medically endorsed businesses. So that is new for us on the medical program here in the last 6 to 8 months. And then I have one more slide again, just another visual showing the location of medically endorsed businesses and dispensaries. Again, we used to have just 3 locations, which was not a lot of, we had issues with access potentially. Now, you can see we have a lot more places where those locations can be served. Okay, no questions on medical. I will jump in there one slide on our compliance and enforcement work. A quick summary here, total number of complaints that we've received. Those usually come through the members of the community. A fellow licensee may also submit a complaint against something that they see happening next door. We have a way on our website to submit it anonymously or reach out with the information. So that's how we capture those. Those range from anything related to, minor on site, right? Or safety and security of the space, to pesticide contamination, to issues with the product quality, otherwise, or labeling, advertising, a wide range. Out of those 442, our compliance and enforcement team initiated 162 formal investigations, which then led to letters of warning, 105. Those are reserved for less egregious violations. They do not come with administrative penalties or suspensions. It's more of a, okay, we have a problem here. Here's how we want you to resolve that. And then 51 notices of violations. Those do carry administrative penalties or suspensions, or both come with corrective action plans and are used in situations where there was a clear violation. So, quick overview of the work of the team. Yeah.
Just the acronym, the LOWs and
A
NOVs.
letter of warning.
Okay.
Yes.
And the NOVs.
Notice of violation.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Brennan.
Of the 162, of the 442 complaints, is there a percentage that you could put on the consumer? Or, you obviously some are from neighbors, most likely.
Yeah.
And are a lot of them consumer driven?
We do get quite a few of those. I mean, we have people that want to audit our program, they're kind of secret shoppers that want to go in and make sure that their products aren't attractive to youth, or that they're actually getting their ID checked. And so we do receive complaints from the kind of broad spectrum of people that engage with the program.
You don't get complaints from the super shopper. That was,
Well, sometimes if there's a product quality issue, we will get a complaint from, people that frequent businesses.
yeah, Senator Norris.
Yeah, I just wanted, could you give me an example of what a complaint looks like? And what are they complaining about? And what's
I
the
mean,
most generic one that you
usually, you can probably say it better.
So advertising complaints. So we could receive a complaint from somebody who includes an ad from the newspaper and says, is this allowed? They're saying X, Y, and Z, right? We have a lot of those types of complaints.
Is it I thought they could do it.
Oh, well, there is a process for that. If certain requirements are met, they absolutely can. But there needs to be an audience composition requirements met. They have to submit those ads to us for pre-approval. So we have a record. We should have a record of any and every advertisement out there, and that is compliant. So folks sometimes see things that they question. Same with a label, like they can see a product there and they're like, wow, this is way too colorful and it appeals to children. Is this allowed? Right? So we have a lot of those.
Do you approve all labels?
We do. So every single label also comes to us first. I'll have a quick slide on product registration where that is at. So those are pretty common. And again, we could have, questions about, a minor on site, like I mentioned, right? Or some other, or, who employees are using cannabis small premises. I've been served by somebody who's, could be various things like that. Obviously, we sometimes hear, I didn't feel very good after this product. And then we could go and, okay, we'll grab it, we'll test it. Is this a product? Is this just, could be anything right at that point. Like we do have to dismiss some, again, because there may not be much to it. It's harder when you have anonymous complaints to investigate those.
Okay.
Yep. We're good on this. So I was going to jump on this product registrations slide. So what this is, as we've just quickly touched on that, any product out there, any of the establishment has to come to us first in terms of we need to make sure it's tested. We need to make sure all of the labeling requirements are met. So the main kind of, it's a lot of this slide, but I wanted just to note that if you look at their data for 2024 and 2025, little charts there, you'll see that in 2024, we registered over 4,600 products, which means we received requests for registration for that many products. And in 2025, just over 5,000 products came to us for registration. So a lot of work that we do internally when we receive information. So again, primarily we focus to make sure the testing is properly done, products are clean, safe, and obviously labeling requirements are met. So we have a team that does that review. You can also see in a side little table which products sort of dominate the market, and flour, you could see right there, is most popular product that gets registered year over year, followed by weight cartridges, concentrates, and down the line we go.
Does that follow sales? Is similar to like flour would be.
Yeah.
Sale.
Yeah, so we have some information on that, but yes.
Consider brand.
I don't see beverages on there. Is that still a category or is it?
It would
fall under
It's
something else?
edibles.
Edible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Better term would be kind of orally consumed probably, but edibles, yeah, they fall under there.
Yeah.
So,
Not that many at this time anyway, but yes, we're watching and introducing new categories as we see it. Okay, any other questions on this?
I said using flour in a clone.
So clone, we created a new license type, which is kind of like just a start. If you don't want to start your plant from a seed,
So this is for the.
you can buy kind of immature plants to get kickstart and grow.
And consumers should buy those so they can grow their own, or is it just for the other cultivators?
The authorization was to allow, because we have home grow, to allow people to purchase up to that home grow limit. So you could buy 6 mature plants,
And is that the limit you can have 6 mature plants?
you can have 2 mature, 4 immature. And the differentiation is a legal one. It's whether there's usable funds on the platform.
So just to add to that, I always wondered if you could buy 6 immature plants which all grow up to be mature at the same time. Then you're not allowed those 6.
You have to-
What do you have to do?
As soon as you harvest,
Harvest them?
once you harvest the plant, it actually kind of goes back to just not being part of your count.
Okay.
Yeah.
The time you
Yeah, I'd like
harvest.
to know about that.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
ready?
go ahead.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And so the next couple slides on our revenue, post projections and actual, sort of to update you where we are at. A couple reminders here, things that are different effective this fiscal year is first of all, the cannabis excise tax no longer funds our agencies operating directly. It now goes directly into general fund. It used to, that revenue first comes into the cannabis regulation fund. And then our cannabis regulation fund, which is the special fund, now consists only of licensing application fees and any administrative penalties we collect. And the in terms of our revenue and how we will use it. So the special fund will cover about 1/3 of our operating budget, which tracks these historical patterns. And then 2/3 of our budget will be looking to fill by line on the general fund distribution appropriation. So now I'm going to direct your attention to this little table because then I will explain that because there's a lot here. So the first line item there, the excise tax line item, that's the projections from JFO for this fiscal year. So the projections are that our taxable sales will be just under $158 million and will collect about just over $22 million in excise tax revenue. Those are the projections. That second line is our actuals for the first 4 months of this fiscal year. And so far, taxable sales are just over $52.5 million and 7.38 in excise tax revenue. So if you do the math, we are tracking right as where we should be. So that's good.
And then I assume sales tax revenue would be the same
Sales tax 6%. So yeah, so we'll be
as
tracking.
far as projections.
Yes, will be, yep, exactly. And then the third line is the fee revenue projections. Those are the information here, there's $2.6 million. And the fee revenue is the projection based on how CCB sees things developing, and that's what they've given out to finance management. And we have actuals for the first 6 months of this fiscal year, and we're 2.38, which is, again, we're tracking well against the $2.6 million projection. Just over, collected just over half of what we projected. So again, nothing kind of here that gives us any reason to update our projections for reasons we're sorry. Okay. And I have one more slide for those who really want to kind of get a better appreciation for the excise tax sort of trends year over year. So that first chart right there has 3 colors, right? You have a gray color line, green and blue. So your gray color represents excise tax revenue collections from 2023. Green is 2024 and black is 2025.
When did we start?
So
Was it at 14?
October 2022, where retail licenses were issued. So the 2023 numbers, it's exactly where we want to be looking at. So you could see right here, 23, we're growing. Year 24, right? We can kind of see stabilizing. And now if you look 24 and 25, we're seeing a pattern. Sort of months over months, we're kind of settling into more predictable.
This is revenue, so you would think it would go up just with inflation as long as the volume is the same.
But yeah, so for sure, it's interesting. So our kind of understanding of what we're seeing here is that overall, if you look months over months, 24 to 25, we are over each month. So right, this could also be an indication that the market continues to thrive. If you remember, we do not have any new entrants into the retail market in the last 12 plus months. So this revenue is generated by the same players, and it is higher.
Do you assume you track transactions as well as sales, right? So you would know, like, are there more purchases? Which I would think if there'd be more customers in the market.
Yes, we have some access to data. Again, the IT side of things could be better, but we are finally at the place where we are able to get much more granular. So yes, we have a way of seeing those trends and paying attention to them. Again, we should be in a much better place in the next 6 to 8 months, because we've had troubles with people reporting data consistently and reliably. We do have access to the point of sale data. So, but again, we could definitely spot challenges. But sort of Department of Taxes has a little bit more consistent way of pulling those numbers together than we could be at that very granular level. We are watching for the trends for sure. So that is what we have for the numbers, and now we are ready to dive into the actual BAA request. And as you might know already, or it says right here, our BAA request is in relation to the expenses associated with our reference lab. I would give you just a quick background on why we're here and the status of our lab. So it was in 2020, the Act 83 from 2022 authorized CCB to receive an $850,000 towards the lab in line with statutory requirement directed our board to establish an in-house cannabis reference testing lab. And then once we had received that appropriation, in the fall of 2023, we went out to bid and secured requisitions for key lab equipment. So 2+ years ago is when we first began our process for securing the lab equipment. We were ready to go. We found our vendors, we got our quotes. But what happened at the same time is that our lab location did not materialize. It was 2023, we had the flood, BGS was dealing with more important, pressing issues. And they were our partner in helping us find the lab location. So we were in a situation where we were ready to go ahead and purchase equipment. But what that would have meant is we would need to find a place to store it, pay storage fees, handling fees, and then wait and watch those warranties that come with equipment expire. Did not make any sense. We were also given a mandate to hire a lab director and chemists for the same very reasons, because we did not have the space, we did not pursue those initiatives. Fast forward to January of 25, we were able to find a space in Colchester. We worked with the landlord to outfit that space between January and June. We did not need to go out for any additional funds for fitting up the lab. It just so happened, we had some delays on IT, so we have funds that were not utilized and we could reappropriate them to help pay for those expenses. So again, we kind of went for it. And in June of last year, we got under a 10-year lease for the space to host the lab. That same month, we hired a lab director. And in July, we went back out to bid, got our requisitions going. And by October, we began receiving our equipment at the new location. At that time, so during all of that time, we were acting, assuming that as soon as we were ready with our actual costs, we would be reaching out to finance and management and requesting funds that we thought we had for our lab expenses in line with that BAA. We reached out to them in November of this past year, and we're told that inadvertently those funds that were allocated to us as a part of the BAA were reverted to the general fund at the end of fiscal year close of 2024. And the only way we could proceed here is to go back out with another BAA request. Financing management was fully supportive of our request. We provided the entire sort of inventory of costs, line item by line item of all of the equipment. The totals came up to $630,150. And that is the request that we have in front of you today for the.
Thank you for that history. So if I'm remembering right, when the administration came in, this was on their sheet. So that's all fine. I'm just wondering.
Is that on the first page?
Yeah, right, first page.
Yeah, I thought that before they reverted funds like that, they went to the agency and investigated. I'm just struck by the inadvertently part, and I'm wondering, have they said how this could happen inadvertently?
No, we are somewhat in a unique position, just in state government generally, as an independent executive branch agency. The governor appoints the Cannabis Control Board from a list that's provided to them, very similar to the Judicial Nominating Board. And then we are no longer kind of under his cabinet, we're in his extended cabinet, but we don't attend his cabinet meetings. So it is possible that they just didn't think to call us, but
It's no small sum of money.
600.
So anyway, probably
there, yes.
So the word inadvertent was used. I've had a couple meetings with Appropriations, and so it's all aware. It sounds like more of an administrative oversight other than anything else. I know my staff, my financial manager at the time in the prior year had made connection and like, hey, do we need to do anything else to make sure those funds are preserved for us? We were told good. So I feel like it was probably just, again, an accident. Yeah.
And normally funds are reverted as the default. The default is to revert So you do usually have to do something proactive to make sure they're not reverting.
Yeah.
Or they just kind of,
Something administrative, it does seem like it was more than administrative. And again, we had their full support once this came to light and, I.
because you have a contract for this whole 630,
Yes, so we have,
is it all spent, basically?
yes, so most of it, I think we're at about 580 that is fully spent or invoiced, I would say, and have about $60,000. As of the submission, we might actually have bought it in quotes. So we quoted everything else that we could need, may actually need. And I,
Do you have vendors waiting to get paid?
no, we went ahead and
Move money around?
we moved money around. Yeah, so we're at the point where if we don't secure those funds, we would be $630,000 short in other places. So yes, the equipment is installed and some of the key equipment. And our plan is to have the lab up and running by June. So that's sort of the timeline we're working with. We hired another scientist already, and we just closed the posting for final scientist position. So we're really full on in getting the operations going.
And that'll, if I remember correctly, the proposal to build those, this will save money over the long term than sending all this stuff out, plus other benefits, but that's one of the things.
Yeah, we have a huge mandate. I think it should save it because we are working with our private labs. We have contracts with the only two that we have to pay for any compliance and enforcement work that we are doing. But we have some R&D work potential, and we have some additional initiatives that the board would like to take on. And you can do a lot more compliance and enforcement work if we had a lab. But ultimately, there's also a lot that has to do with public health and safety and conflict of interest. Right, when we have two labs that we licensed, and then we go to them and say, hey, could you do this compliance and enforcement testing for us? Something that maybe this other lab tested.
Right.
It is very difficult to feel confident about the outcomes. So there's a lot here.
Okay.
So that's that. Yeah, the last slide was the same thing, just with some additional citations that I wanted to put in there. So
Okay. I think that's pretty straightforward. Can I ask a non-budgetary question? So the rules, the purchase rules that
Yes.
they were proposed that kit, I got several calls from the dispensaries in my district. But I can't remember if the board did something like they did, maybe like hold them off or something. I can't remember.
Right, yeah, we decided to postpone the implementation of any changes to them. So there is a purchase cap currently. It's just so
You would
high that
propose
no one would ever hit it.
Okay, you had lowered the cap basically.
We had lowered it to a much more realistic equivalent to 1 ounce of cannabis, which is the purchase limit for flower. This is a transaction limit for products.
So if they bought like this was a complaint that I heard. Like, they do have customers that'll buy 3 different
Right.
things and then they would have hit the proposed.
Right. So we heard a lot of feedback. It was a proposal. It was a draft proposal, just like if we were gonna implement a new rule, we put it out for comment. We got quite a bit of comment, not just from the industry, but also from legislators saying we really want to revisit this transaction limit this year. So instead of implementing something and having to change it, people have to change their IT infrastructure to accommodate those point of sale systems. Instead of doing that twice, they do end up changing it. And we decided to delay implementation further and give you everyone here.
yeah, I think we decided on July 1, sort of the timeline, hoping to get through the legislative session and see if there is something direction.
Okay, Brent?
Along that same line, because I'm one of those legislators who probably a couple of you got a call from some groups, but a lot of these folks, I mean, it was a proposal or an idea, but they took it pretty seriously.
Yes.
It came out of the manual, right? Or
A guidance document.
A guidance document.
Yeah,
so these guys had built their business model.
right.
The folks I'm dealing with in my district built their business model around the current guidelines.
Yeah.
So, going forward, are you saying July 1st is a probable change, or you're just going to take another look at it?
What we said is no implementation is gonna happen until a minimum of July first of any proposal. But I think at that point is once we know what happens here, whether it changes or not, is the time that we can restart the conversation. And really, this is the reason why I really appreciate the legislature weighing in on this is because there's no good way. This might sound crazy to scientifically say what the equivalent of 1 ounce of flour is when it compares to products. You could look at how much does a 1 ounce of cannabis cost on average, and what is that equivalent in products? You could talk about the kind of biodiversity, bioavailability of the various modes of administration, whether it's tincture, topical, inedible versus smoking a joint, and try and have an equivalent THC level. It's just, or you could just say under perfect extraction methods, ideal extraction conditions, how much THC in milligrams could you extract out of 1 ounce of flour?
And then the current cap is one.
1 ounce of flour, yeah, you can only purchase 1 ounce of flour if you go into a store. You asked us to create an equivalency guide for products, the amount of products you can buy in small transaction. And every state, so we looked at every state that's done this. Every state comes right around 1 ounce of flour is equivalent to 8 grams of concentrate, somewhere between 500 and 1200 milligrams of THC. We picked somewhere kind of right in the middle of all that because it is somewhat of an arbitrary decision. And, full well knowing that any transaction limit disproportionately impacts people that live far away from a dispensary. Or, there's certainly consumers that like to bulk purchase products, Costco, so really, if it's going to be an arbitrary decision, it's almost better that it come out of the legislature because that 1 ounce was an arbitrary decision. And so I think it probably won't be this committee that decides, but, the good part or kind of nice part is we essentially didn't have one. We just did under ideal conditions, you could extract 8,400 milligrams out of 1 ounce of flour. That is essentially not a limit because, you think about it, the average, the serving size for gummy being 5 milligrams, that's you can buy 80 packs of gummies and say that's the equivalent of 1 ounce of flour. But we've existed in that framework from the outset of the market. And we haven't seen a huge number of what we would consider suspicious transactions with essentially no net. So it isn't good. You have a little bit of data as the legislature to say, where do you want to set that limit on the product?
And what committee? Judiciary?
I think it would be economic development at this point.
That's like a business.
There is this one section in the criminal law that says that the cannabis board shall set by rule product equivalency to the possession limits that are they cross the line between where the civil penalties are.
Mm-hmm.
You may want to either eliminate that or just say that, or just clarify that it's this level of THC.
Yeah, Senator Sears was, while he was alive, he was very interested in keeping it moving through judiciary.
Right.
I think basically.
I'd love to see it in health and welfare, but
It's about dosing. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
it's always been handled pretty well, though.
And, right, well, I would, it doesn't have anything to do, I don't think, but when it does come, wherever it goes, I'd like to see, if anybody was listening here, some of the retailers and growers have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They were the retailers were certainly the most vocal about change. Yeah.
Good. Can I just throw one thing out there? That I heard the other day, and you don't have to comment, and this is, have you heard the proposal to merge the Cannabis Control Board with liquor and lottery?
Yeah. I mean, well, that's been floated around, including in the original Marijuana Advisory Committee report. Where should this thing live?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the way Maine does it, right?
Maine, it's actually it's just an executive branch agency that the governor appoints the executive director. There's no board.
Oh, I thought it was liquor lottery. counties.
It's that way in Oregon and it's that way in Washington state. Yeah.
Vice, sometimes they call
Yeah,
it
the
the
vice
vice.
place, kind of.
With tobacco over there. Okay. You don't have a public comment.
It's really, so we actually, the auditor, when you guys created the board, you asked the auditor to come back in 3
Right.
years and evaluate whether this was an effective and efficient way to regulate the industry. The auditor, for various reasons, said that he'd prefer not to do that report. Which were legitimate.
Was this last year? Because I think I remember this.
Well, this was supposed to be 3 years after the creation of the board, which would have been 2023. And then the legislature kicked it out 2 years instead of eliminating altogether. But last year you did eliminate that report. But we also picked up the ball and said, we have a little bit of capacity in this contract we have with our economists who are looking at the market analysis. Could you evaluate what the most effective and efficient place to house our agency would be and look at the various models that exist around the country? We actually have that report that I can share. It's done and happy to just kind of, it doesn't do a line by line cost analysis where the savings would be. But
Is
it
there like
does,
pros and cons, or does it give a recommendation?
it pros and cons of the 4 or 5 different models that exist around the country. And then it does give a recommendation that really, because of the subject matter expertise at the board compared to local law advisory board, and because of the just vastly changing federal landscape currently, that for the next 2 years, it should probably stay where it is. But again, you guys, as the appropriations committee, should probably do the analysis of where the savings might actually be.
I remember the auditor saying that he'd rather not. It's an interesting response to legislation to do.
Yeah, it's partly.
But I think that his rationale, and it was really just, you said effective and efficient.
Right.
You measuring
Said that
this
wasn't his
against
role, yeah.
other state agencies that have a regulatory framework? Are you measuring that against other cannabis control boards around the country? And what metrics do you want to evaluate?
Right.
So you said either tell me that and give me a little bit of money to do this, or just don't do it. Ask me not to do it. So.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, Mr. Control Board. All right. Thank you. Thank you for the information.